Good afternoon. My name is Kayla Peters. I am the Outreach and Event Coordinator here at the Kensington Falls Church. On behalf of the Kensington, we thank you for sharing your time with us this afternoon. The Kensington Falls Church is an assisted living and memory care residence located in the heart of Falls Church, Virginia. Our enhanced programs enable us to deliver care beyond what the traditional senior living community can deliver. We are open for in-person and virtual tours by appointment. Please visit our website. We look forward to listening to your needs. Now, let us review a few housekeeping rules for this afternoon. We are using Zoom webinar format, so your videos and microphones will be off. There will be slides shown during the presentation, so please know you can split the screen by clicking the View button and choosing the split screen option if you'd like. And if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please use the Q&A feature to submit them, which we will read to our speakers at the end. Now, I'd like to introduce our speakers for this afternoon. We are fortunate to be hearing from our Director of Genesis Rehab Services at the Kensington Falls Church, Bobby Matthew. Bobby has over 18 years of experience working as a physical therapist in varied settings in New York, New Jersey, and Virginia. Prior to moving to the United States, he worked as a physical therapist in private and public facilities in India. He has been with Genesis for the past 9 years, working in various capacities before accepting the director position at the Kensington. Bobby feels passionately about using physical therapy as a means to improve quality of life. We will also be hearing from the Kensington Falls Church Executive Director, Amy Feather. Amy has been with the Kensington since we opened our doors almost 5 years ago. Amy will be joining Bobby for this afternoon's presentation, engaging in candid conversation about the Genesis Rehab Services that we offer here at the Kensington Falls Church. Please join me in welcoming Amy and Bobby.
Thank you, Kayla. And thank you for being with us today to learn more about our partnership with Genesis Rehab Services. When I first began with working in an assisted living community, I didn't recognize the true value of having on-site therapy providers. I was somewhat skeptical of the instant services that they could provide. And what I didn't understand was the importance of immediate services, especially following a hospitalization or an illness or an injury. And I've since learned that the continuation of care is incredibly valuable from the moment a resident moves into our building. Helping residents maintain their baseline abilities and why we ask for an initial order from their physicians for both physical and speech therapy as well as occupational is so that we can help them maintain those baseline abilities. We believe and we've learned that that leads to longer independence, which is a goal for all of us in the community. We're very privileged to have Bobby and the Genesis therapists as members of our team.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you all for joining this call. Thank you, Kayla, for that introduction, and Amy for inviting me to present this. I would have to agree with Amy. If I wasn't a therapist, I would be skeptical as well as to why people get on therapy right away when they move into a facility. But I truly believe that a proactive approach and skilled therapy intervention, if needed, is very important. Like our next story that I have for you. I would like to introduce Faith, who's one of our newer residents in our community. I got to see her the first day she was here, and believe it or not, she was doing very well. She was able to walk on her own. She was able to transfer. She walked so fast that I had to ask her to slow down. She aced my balance test. But on further evaluation, we were able to notice there's certain things that she needed help with. She has low vision due to certain conditions, which caused her significant deficits where she couldn't open the blinds on her own because she couldn't see the contrasting differences. She would find it difficult to retrieve her clothing during the evening time. The ledges between one surface to another was difficult to find. She was finding it very difficult to recognize where the grab bars, the elevating toilet seats were in the bathroom. The lights bothered her because they were on the brighter side. And this is where our team approach comes into the picture. Our EVS team was able to step in, adjust the lights for her. They were able to make the blinds easier to adjust.
And I'm going to interrupt you.
Sure.
EVS, for those of you who don't use all our the letters that we use here, is our environmental services. So it'd be like a facilities department in another community.
That's correct. Thank you for that. Amy.
Sorry.
Because you're so used to saying that, so it just comes rolling out of my mouth. So our occupational therapist was able to get in there. They had colored tape around the elevating toilet seat, the grab bars, the light switches. They had a motion censored light in a closet so that she could retrieve her clothing. Our occupational therapist was also able to educate Faith with an Alexa app so she could listen to books on the Alexa app. Faith expressed a keen interest in being able to walk outside the facility, and mind you, on her own. Initially, the thought itself was scary for a physical therapist. For somebody who had low vision, it was truly incredible how the activity department and us as physical therapists were able to do trial runs with her around the building. We were able to map out a route that she could take so she didn't have to cross sidewalks. We reduced the risk that she had. And as you can see, Faith is enjoying her morning walk right there in the picture. Moving on. A little bit more about our company. Our company is Genesis Rehab Services. We were founded about 36 years ago with the goal to make a difference with every patient we encounter and provide effective and efficient therapy services. Our core values are respect and appreciation for all, teamwork and enjoyment in working together, focus and discipline, and most of all, honesty and integrity in all our dealings.
And the partnership with Genesis lines up so beautifully with the core values that Kensington Senior Living has, that we feel like we are part of one team. The partnership provides not only the preventative and the proactive physical, occupation, and speech therapies here on site, but they do this as an integrated part of our team and the entire community, really. Because they get to know our residents, they are more likely to notice when things aren't as they should be. They're able to, even if somebody isn't on their current caseload, they're able to include a lot of input because they're here in the community day to day. And they're building relationships with individual residents. And those relationships create a trusting atmosphere, which actually leads to more valuable and more, I guess, willing participation in therapy, especially with our memory care residents. I can't tell you how valuable having Genesis in the building on a day-to-day basis is for our care team and our nursing team here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Amy. Our relationship with Kensington is very special and one to cherish. When Kensington opened its doors about 5 years ago, we were the company they chose to provide therapy services, and we still are here. That speaks a lot. We have jointly adapted our ways that we have managed the very difficult last year with COVID. Believe it or not, Amy and Brenda made it happen that we were the first services to return after our initial outbreak of COVID. Being on site is so very important for multiple reasons. One that comes to mind is our residents love activities. They have movies to go to. They have shopping trips to go to. We are able to be able to cater to them. We are able to what should I say? Manage our schedules based on their events, which is very important. We get to build a really good relationship with all the staff members here and all the residents, as Amy was saying, whether they are on our caseload or not. And you don't know how important it is when we walk into the memory care unit and we see somebody who really does, sometimes they recognize us just because They have seen us, and there is a joy to their face when they interact with us. That is so very important. And I think that wouldn't have happened if we were an independent contractor just coming in to provide one session of therapy with one person. We really feel we are part of a Kensington family now, and that is very important to us. A little more about the team. As you can see, I'm the physical therapist and the director of rehab. To my right in the picture is Julie Fisher. She's our physical therapy assistant, and Melissa Rubinos, who's our occupational therapist. Together, we have more than 30 years of experience amongst us. We all bring different perspectives and clinical skills to the table. We work great as a team, and I think that is the key to our success. Moving on. A little more about what we do as therapists in general and the services we provide at Kensington. We have 3 particular services, which is physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. Amy, I get asked this question quite a bit. Is therapy covered under insurance? Is it part of the Kensington costs?
We also cover this many times in our initial sales visits. But therapy, any kind of therapy, is a covered medical cost. So it's actually one of the few things within the building that is covered by Medicare or other medical insurance. So although Kensington Senior Living itself is private pay, the therapy can be covered by insurance, and that's why we ask for, and we don't initiate any kind of therapy without a doctor's order. So we speak with the physicians who oversee the care of an individual resident. We get the doctor's orders, and then like any other kind of insurance, which varies from resident to resident, Bobby's team actually pre-authorizes the therapy, and then they'll let the family or the resident themselves know if there is going to be a co-charge or if their insurance is covering everything.
Exactly.
So I think all but the health and wellness program, which is more like a kind of personal trainer type extension of our Genesis services. And Bobby will cover that later.
We will be covering that later, yes. Yes, so what Amy was saying is absolutely right. It is a Medicare covered service, but since supplemental insurance also has to pay part of it, so that it depends on the benefit of the patient. And we do a benefit verification where we get to know exactly what is covered. Is there a copay? Is there a co-insurance to therapy sessions? And we do let you know before we start therapy. Physical therapy, what do? We work on strength, range of motion, balance training, endurance, and gait training. How do we achieve our goals? We use various techniques. Therapeutic exercises, which you all may be aware of, strengthening bands, weighted balls, the recumbent bike, therapeutic activity, neuro re-education. We also use adjuncts like electrical stimulation, therapeutic ultrasound, if it is advised by the doctor. Occupational therapy. They help patients safely and independently perform activities of daily living, specifically bathing, dressing, and transfers. They use a wide range of interventions to adapt tasks and modify environments to enhance the patient's ability to be able to complete the task safely and also within their physical and social environments. Speech therapy, another crucial part of our team. They work on swallowing dysfunction and communication. Their plan focuses on comprehensive skills for written and verbal communication, memory deficits, problem solving, and higher executive function. Next slide, please. A little more about the kinds of conditions and the most common things we see in a setting like this. It includes overuse injuries like rotator cuff problems, tendinitis, sprains, strains. Pain management is one of the important things we do. which we encounter quite a bit: cervical pain, low back pain, pain from chronic conditions like arthritis, rheumatic arthritis as well, neurological conditions like Parkinson's, post-effects of strokes, orthopedic conditions like joint replacements, aftercare following a fracture. And by far the most we see is the last bullet point that you can see, which is deconditioning. Although it's not a medical diagnosis, but more like a symptom, which is an overall decline in muscle strength, endurance, functional mobility, and leading to a loss of independence. Next slide, please. So what does our proactive therapy approach actually mean? Like the story of faith clearly indicated, the benefits of us doing a screen. So when we have a new move-in, we make it a point within a day or two to see the patient. We're able to tell if the patient needs something for gait. Let's say she doesn't use a cane or uses a walker and needs a change in assisted device. We're able to recommend medical equipment like, is the bed too low for her or high for her? Does she need a bed cane to help her get in and out of bed? Does she need an elevated toilet seat? All of those things are taken care of in that initial screen. And of course, we screen them for appropriateness for therapy services as well. Do we need a full PT eval, or does speech need to intervene? The other important thing that we do is fall prevention. Whenever a fall is recorded, we have a fall meeting where we discuss each and every fall. We try to figure out what are the environmental modifications that can be done to prevent further falls and, of course, injury. We have our weekly health maintenance meetings where we have our doctor, who is Dr. Simmons, our medical director. We have our unit in charges. We have Brenda, our director of nursing, and of course, Amy. We discuss each and every resident who's in the building, their medical needs, and also if they need to be screened for therapy and if appropriate, therapy services as well. And I'm sure Amy would like to.
Okay, because I am going to interrupt because this is, it's one of my favorite meetings of the week, and we spend a couple of hours every Wednesday together. And we don't just talk about residents who might have an obvious medical or health need, but we actually discuss every single resident in our building. A number of residents who, they might be going through either a change of condition. We have some residents that are going through a transition. So maybe they've just moved in from their home or from another care setting. And we want to talk about it because we want to make sure we're meeting every need that they have. It's not just about the physical needs. It's also about the emotional needs, the social needs. And we come at it as a group because we want to be able to talk about the entire person. So that's why we have folks that join our health maintenance meeting who might not be the medical experts in our building. And this is also what I like to frame as our out-of-the-box thinking. So there is no idea that comes to the table that is off the charts. We want to consider absolutely everything. 2 weeks ago, we actually talked about an equestrian therapy or an equestrian outing for one of our residents because we felt like that might be something that would be really good for her, considering her past and her history and her love for horses. So that's something that we have already found a contact for and we plan on implementing as soon as possible. I also wanted to mention that as we talk about the environment, as Bobby talks about fall prevention, and we talk about the initial screening, as well as looking at the resident and their abilities and the equipment that they might have or might need, we also look at their environment. So Bobby's team looks at not only, it might be the height of the bed, but it's about, is the furniture too close? Is the placement of the furniture correct? We are pretty consistent in taking Bobby's advice or one of the other therapists on his team when it comes to what we might be able to do to make that environment better for any of our residents. So you might find us moving furniture. We might be using fingernail polish to paint a dot on somebody's remote control. We might be buying extended phone cords because given the assessment, the phone needs to be here for this person. So we take it all in, and we really use that weekly meeting as a form of not only out of the box thinking, but also a way to hold each other accountable. Like, did this get done this week? What tasks do we need to follow up on? Who are we waiting to hear back from? Do we need to contact the family to get authority to do this or that? And it's a great touch point for all of us so that we can look ahead and try to get in front of something that might become, basically at the end of the day, we want to meet the need before it becomes a crisis or before it becomes a larger health concern. So.
Yeah, I think Amy covered it all. I cannot follow after that. Yes, but I can second that. So many people meeting with different points of view, and yes, it makes a whole lot of difference. Moving on to the training part, it is, once again, I have to bring up the point about being on site. That is so vital to our ability to provide training. We provide training specifically on fall prevention, biomechanics, and transfers. Just to give you a little example, we had a patient who needed a transfer board a slide board transfer rather. This is a kind of transfer that we don't usually see often, although the caregivers are very good and they know how to do it. It usually requires a refresher from time to time because you don't see it commonly. We were able to provide this service for the morning team and the evening team. And it worked out so well. The patient didn't have to stay in bed and she was able to transfer in and out, for the simple reason that she had an orthopedic condition where she was not able to bear weight on her legs.
And I don't know, I'm just going to interrupt you, but a sliding board, it's almost like a plank of wood, but it is, it's very smooth on one side, and then the other side has some kind of tape or traction so that it stays in place.
Correct.
And you can take the arm off of a wheelchair and put that sliding board between the bed and the wheelchair so that the person doesn't have to put their feet on the ground. They cannot bear any weight. So it's not something we use very often because we like people to bear weight when they're able. It's helpful in maintaining their strength.
Correct.
So just
yes, that's correct.
Give a definition.
Yes. BCAT. BCAT is a form of assessment, a brief cognitive assessment, which our speech therapists do. We do it on people who move in. It tests their higher executive function, their memory, their cognition. This gives us our ability to go in from time to time and screen them again with this test so we can know if there are any changes. Energized Fitness, this is one of our group classes that we provide. I must say it's one of the popular classes around here. We work on upper extremity strengthening, lower extremity strengthening, and large amplitude movements. Moving on. This is what Amy was referring to when she mentioned health and wellness. When we pick up somebody on skilled services and it's time to discontinue services, most family members and our patients themselves want to have some regimented routine where they can maintain the functional gains that they have made. It could be something as easy as riding a bike, taking a walk in the community, a balance program or a strength program, and that is where this comes in. This is a private pay program and is delivered in 30-minute sessions. We do a one-on-one training with the patient based on their goals. Next slide. Another story that we would like to discuss and end on a high note. This is Irene that you see in the picture. She's one of our long-term residents at our community. She, over the last few months, secondary to her progressing dementia, she was having quite a bit of issues with her ADLs, which is the task of showering, toileting, specifically with undressing and maintaining a shower routine. When our occupational therapist was called in to look into this, our unit manager and the caregiver staff told her that Irene loves to read. She reads whatever she can get her hand on. This got them thinking, and together they were able to create cue cards. Those cue cards had certain instructions for Irene, which you could read out. It could be something like, Irene, we're going to unbutton your shirt. It also had positive phrases in between to reduce her anxiety, and surprisingly, it worked very well. I cannot emphasize how important it is that this team approach and patient-centered care is given at the Kensington and is part of what we do.
Thank you, Bobby. I think that Kayla was going to see if we had any questions that folks might want to get a little more information.
Yes, so we did seem to have a question about insurance, but it sounds like you guys did touch on that earlier in the presentation. So let me move on to our next question that we do have. Bobby, this is more specifically for you. Now, do you have any certain programs or strategies you use when working with someone who specifically has Parkinson's disease?
Yes, we do. Along with the norm of working on strength and endurance, Parkinson's patients present with typical problems like shuffling, something called slowness of movement, inability to turn, inability to back up. So we do teach a lot of compensatory strategies. Another thing that Amy would be able to appreciate as well is U-Step. It's a special kind of assisted device that we have encouraged patients to have secondary to their problems of backing up. The U-Step gives them a wide base of support, and it helps them with turns and backing up.
And it's much heavier.
Sturdier.
It's a special kind of walker, and it's when what you call it a U-step.
Yes.
A U-step. And it's just much heavier, so it's weighted, and it gives that that resident who may be suffering from Parkinson's more stability with the walker itself.
And also we work a lot on coordination and reciprocal movements, which is advocated for.
And one of the other programs that we have in the building is we work with a speech therapist who does a group called Communications Club. And that's a weekly, and we did it virtually all through COVID, and we are moving toward bringing it back in person. But it is it's part of the loud therapy that with Parkinson's residents will often lose strength in their voice as well. And so Susan Ronick is the speech therapist who works with us in this, and she emphasizes that through this weekly class, and it's very supportive for our residents.
That's great. Thank you so much. Okay, and then moving on, I believe this will be our last question for the day. But now I know it would depend on, of course, a case-by-case basis, but do you have some examples of physical therapy or occupational therapy for residents who have dementia or patients who have dementia?
Yes, we do. And depending on the stage of dementia, compensatory strategies really matter. That is where our speech therapist comes into the picture as well. Behavioral management really helps. Maintaining a consistent schedule with them, having the same therapist seeing them. Yes, depending on the condition, of course, that we're dealing with, whether it's an injury or simple deconditioning, we do make sure that we work on muscle strength, on balance, on gait. Sometimes it's very difficult because they do not understand commands like we would with other people, where we ask them to, okay, we're going to strap a weight on you. We want you to do a quadricep exercise, for example, just trying to straighten your leg out 20 times, let's say, for example. This may not be the case with a dementia patient. We might, with a resident here, we might need to alter our means of treatment, like we would ask them to kick with us, or we would put a balloon in front of them and then demonstrate how we would kick a balloon and then have them do it. Or we would ask them to hold on to a weighted ball. We don't know if they're going to catch it or not. So we have a standby assistant who would catch the ball for them, give it to them, then have them throw the ball at us. So this throw and catch, these are all movements which they might have done in the past, which we use in order to strengthen. We might do squats with them. We might put things on the floor and pick it up and then have them later do the same. So these are the kind of functional activities that we do with patients who just cannot do regular things that we would expect them to do.
And I think too, with occupational therapy, I know that Melisa has worked very closely with our teams in Haven and in Connections when it comes to, like you gave the great illustration of Irene and the scheduling, so that the routine is something in writing, so that she feels very confident in that and is able to engage in that every time it's time to take a shower. But for some of our other team members, if we have a resident who has an especially difficult time with one of these ADLs or acts of daily living, they will work with the team to come up with a plan that's successful with the resident, and then we'll have it in writing so that the team is able to follow it as well. Because it is really important when you have folks who walk through a struggle with dementia or cognitive decline, that they can rely on this is the next step. And we work very well with our families. If they have things that have been successful at home, we walk through that with them so that we can bring some of those home routines into the Kensington as we care for them. So each individual resident might get a shower with a different routine, a different plan, a different strategy. But that is something that's really important with occupational therapy, and that's where the partnership is so implemented. Thanks.
Correct.
Right. Okay, great. Well, that seemed to be our last question of the day. So I just want to say thank you both to you, Amy, and you, Bobby, for taking the time to sit down and speak with us today and answer some questions. So I'll leave the video up just for a little bit longer. If anybody has any questions that happen to come through, I'll also put the holding slide back up in case anybody wanted to get your contact information as well. So I'll put that back up. And a recording of this video will be put on our Kensington website on our Connect page as well, in case you ever want to refer back to it. So again, thank you, Amy. Thank you, Bobby. And everyone, have a good day.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.